Fear the speaking part of the exam no more. In today's video, we're going to be looking at a very nice structure for you in the speaking exam so it can go as smooth as silk. Okay guys, welcome back to English class. In today's video, we're going to be covering parts 1 and parts 2 of the speaking exam. So the speaking exam in total lasts for about 14 or 15 minutes. Part 1 is about 2 minutes long. This is when yourself and your partner are sat in front of the examiners. There's 2 examiners and you will only be communicating with one examiner. The other examiner will probably be taking notes or monitoring your use of grammar, etc, etc. Some of the topics that you may have to talk about in part 1 may involve hobbies of yours, work or education. If you're in school, it would be education. If you're working in a business, for example, it would be about your work. Maybe a topic about things you like or maybe you don't like. A topic could be about your friends or family. Maybe some holidays which you've been on, some sports, or even some future plans. What happens if the examiner asks you a question about one of these topics and you don't fully understand? Well, you could say something like, "Please, could you repeat that?" And the examiner will of course be more than willing to repeat the question for you. Now of course, nerves will be present. You'll be a bit nervous. It's the first part. You've just sat down. You've got this person in front of you you don't even know, you've probably never seen in your life before, asking you questions about your personal life or your life in general. So if you want to play it safe at the start, you could play it safe with grammar. If they were to ask you a question about holidays, are you going to go on holiday this year? You could respond using the same grammar structure. Yes, I'm going to go on holiday to Jamaica, for example. And then we want another sentence more. So we want the answer to the question and then a little bit more detail. So here you could look to use maybe 2 sentences. Yes, I'm going to go to Jamaica. I'm going with my friends and family together. My best friend is called James, for example. It's very important to learn keywords, not phrases. We don't want to sound too robotic in this part, guys. I recommend learning possibly the professions of your parents if you're at school, or learning your own profession if you're in the working world. And maybe it would be useful learning other ways to express your like for something. Instead of saying, "I like going to the cinema," you could say, "I am fond of going to the cinema." Or you could even say, "I am keen on going to play football with my friends at the weekend." Okay, so remember about the 2 sentence or maybe 3 sentence rule. Another question could be, what are your hobbies? So instead of listing every hobby you have, maybe choose 1 or 2 and respond to the answer with something like, "Well, my hobbies are painting and reading." That's 1 sentence. And now another sentence to give a bit more detail. "I like to read after I finish school, and I like to paint when I have free time." And of course, instead of using like, you could say, "I am fond of reading and I am keen on painting." If you would like to practice this part of the test on your own, you can do by looking at some of these questions and recording yourself. Listen back to yourself and see if you made any errors. Moving on to part 2. This is known as the long turn part. So you and your partner now will have to talk about 2 photos presented to you. You will have only 1 minute to talk about the 2 photos. After you've talked about the photos for 1 minute, you will then have 30 seconds to talk about your partner's photos after he or she has done them. So this is no longer PET, so the previous exam. Here we're in first, so we don't need to describe the photos, which is sometimes what students seem to do or make the mistake on. Here we need to compare the photographs and also answer a question. So imagine the picture is of a man riding a bike. We don't want to hear you say, "The man is riding a bike." Here we could say, "The man in photo 1 is riding a bike, while in photo 2, he is studying at his desk." So let's have a look at some example photographs. As you can see here, we are presented with 2 photos. The question is, compare the photographs and say, which will always be the same in the exam, to compare and say, what do you think these people are waiting to do? And of course guys, in the bottom left corner of the photograph, you'll see some key vocabulary. I've written some key vocabulary because this is the structure that we should look to use. It's very simple, straightforward, and it's a great starting block for you to start giving your discourse. So, to start this part of the test, you could start by saying something like, both pictures show. In this case, it would be, both pictures show a group of people waiting for something. Now, of course, remember in this part of the exam, we have to compare. So to compare, we could use what Cambridge call a magic word, while. So, for example, while in photo 1, I would say they are waiting to catch a flight. In photo 2, there are people in a waiting room at the doctor's. Okay guys, so here we've compared the two photographs, not just described. If you want to add a bit more detail, we could use the next magic word, which is whereas. The difference here is, whereas can be used in the middle of the sentence, not at the start, like while. So first of all, say something in one photo which is different to the other photo. In photo 1, I believe the family are waiting to catch a flight to go to the United States. Whereas in the second photo, I reckon that the people or some people are waiting to collect their results from the doctor. So that's a good structure that we can start this speaking with. Both photos show, while in photo 1, in photo 2, and also you could start the sentence by saying something in the photo, then whereas in the other photo. The next thing you can use is speculation. Don't be scared by the word speculation, guys. This means to imagine. What do you imagine these people in the photograph are doing, feeling, thinking, etc. So here we have to use some speculative phrases or words such as may, might, or could, or even I reckon, I believe, or even in my opinion, or my view is that. So let's have a look. In photo 1, the father might be feeling very tired because he's had to be in the seat for a very long time with his daughter falling asleep on his lap. So here we've used what is known as a modal verb, but we are speculating. Let's use another one. In my opinion, the people who are waiting to collect the results, they might be very on edge about collecting their results. Okay guys, so that's it. For 1 minute, it will fly by. And if you use this structure, it's going to seem like it never even happened. But remember, this is when your partner now has to speak for his or her 1 minute. So you must wait and be attentive. Pay attention to him or her, because after his or her 1 minute, you will have to speak for 30 seconds. So after your 1 minute, 30 seconds. The 30-second question will always be something related to preference. Which do you prefer? Imagine that your partner had those photos. Your question would be about preference between the photos. For example, in which of these situations is it most difficult to be patient? And in this part of the test, in this part, I've given you 2 ways to start your discourse. You could start by saying something like, to be honest, I'd say, or I would say, or, well, to tell the truth, etc., etc. So let's have a look. In which of these situations is it most difficult to be patient? To be honest, I'd say waiting in the waiting room at the doctor's. I believe that it is very nerve-wracking, and especially if you have some health problems, you could be very anxious. Or you could say something like, well, to tell the truth, I think it would be most difficult to be patient in photo 1 because it might be that this family are so excited to go on their holiday, but maybe they are worried about their flight or plane being cancelled. So pretty much guys, that is part 1 and part 2 of the first certificate speaking test. If you have any questions or if you have any comments you would like to leave, please do in the comment section below. That is all for me today. In the next class, we'll be looking at part 3 and part 4. Okay, goodbye for now.